Does it ever feel like there's just too much to do? Like you just never have enough time in the day, and there's just too many things pulling you in different directions, and you're always working on 75 different things, and you're never making progress on any of them? Well, you're in luck. Because today we're going to talk about how to slow down. This is the Existential Stoic podcast. I'm Danny here with my buddy Randy. What's up, Randy?
Yo, Danny.
So, do you have trouble slowing down?
Does the Pope wear a funny hat?
I know, right? It is a
Yeah.
funny hat, isn't it?
Uh-huh. Well, it's an interesting thing because your introduction you were talking about does it seem like you have too much stuff to do? And it seems counterintuitive to slow down if you have a whole bunch of stuff to do because how are you ever going to get it done if you're not working fast enough now at light speed? You need to go into like super hyper light speed in order to get all this stuff done. And it's like one of these paradoxes of life where in order to get more done, you need to slow down. That doesn't make sense.
I know, isn't it funny? And every time what you usually hear is, well, here's a book on multitasking,
Hmm.
here's stuff on how to handle
Time
stress, how to
management.
grind through it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I actually think all that's
Hire some people to work underneath you, get more done, get your own virtual
delegate.
assistant. Yeah.
It's funny because I think I remember reading this is a little while ago, but it was a study done when they were talking about, that like multitasking is really like a lie. Like we
Hmm.
can't actually multitask. We're not good at it. Yes, like it is true that like our brain will solve problems and work on things when we're doing other stuff, but that doesn't mean that we can do 20 different tasks at once. And I find this
Hmm.
myself all the time. Like when I'm working on like, which is almost always numerous different like projects that are like, especially a lot of times diverse, like totally different things. If I try to do all of them at once, I get way less done than if I just focus on one and either complete it or depending on like schedule, try and like take time for each one and schedule like blocks of time so that I get stuff done actually. And I think it's like it becomes like sometimes when we have a lot to do and we're really busy, I think it sometimes becomes like that crutch of like procrastination and like perfectionism where like instead of getting anything done, we pretend like we're doing a bunch of stuff, but we're not actually doing anything. Like we're never
Hmm.
finishing anything.
Well, it's like the whole concept of looking busy. You're like, oh, I'm
Yeah.
busy, I'm
I'm so
busy, I'm
busy. I'm
busy.
important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not so much. I saw a funny thing today. I saw a guy walking around like a track dribbling a basketball. So you would think he's trying to like improve his basketball dribbling skills, but he was on his phone the entire time. So like all he was doing was like palming the basketball and doing stuff. So like I don't know, maybe he was just relaxing. He was going there relaxed, but I'm like, if you're doing this to improve your basketball game, you're just reinforcing it.
That's
That's
funny.
this thing.
Yeah, I wonder
Yeah,
because I don't know. It might have just been like a
yeah.
thing. Because I have seen people do that where they'll just like stand with like a ball and just drip like very basic dribble, not really
Hmm.
do anything. And maybe it's just fun. But yeah,
But
yeah,
also it
this
was just painful to watch him try and dribble because he was all over the place. It was just
because he's
like
got the
if you're gonna
phone.
play on your phone, just carry the ball. Like
Yeah,
yeah.
I know.
So I don't know.
But that's the problem, right? We have like this huge distraction in our pocket at all times, which is basically, I mean, I don't think people really appreciate how much information we have access to at
Mm.
all times. I
Mhm.
mean, like, because it's funny, like, and I can't even believe I can say this, but like in our own lifetimes, like we lived for half our lives almost before the internet was really ubiquitous and accessible
Mhm.
everywhere. Like our first phones had no internet. Remember? And I remember when the
Oh yeah.
early phones came out that had internet, it was the mobile internet that was like,
Yeah.
stripped down and everything. But like you couldn't
Yeah,
do
or
all this stuff.
before text messages. Like
Yeah.
there were mobile
Oh
phones,
yeah.
but they were calls only.
Yeah, because texting was too hard because you only had like the 10 buttons and
Yeah.
you had to hit a button like
I remember
18
the first
times.
one I received. Had no idea what the heck to do with
I
it.
was like, what is this? What is this
Yeah.
thing?
Yeah.
But I think that's funny though. Like, we don't realize like one, we've made reaching people significantly easier. Because like I remember being younger, right? You'd leave the house and the only way that somebody could get a hold of you was calling somewhere that you were, or leaving a message, or waiting for you to call back. Like you didn't have phones on you at all times. So like I think
Mhm.
there's this both like the connectivity, but also just the access to information. It's overwhelming and we haven't like adjusted to this yet. It's too new for us to have adapted to at all. And I think it's going to take some time still. So, yeah, you have that huge distraction. And then you have your other whole life that you're living too that you're trying to do. And it's like, comes a lot to manage.
Mhm. Yeah, so how do we slow down? I This is a tough one because I listened to a really good book. Don't remember the name of it. It was on slowing down, and it talked about, a
It
whole
was probably
bunch of
called like
stuff
Slow
like,
the F Down or something.
yeah, I know, right? And but one of the interesting concepts it talked about was like the idea of having a Sabbath day, so like a complete day off to kind
Hey,
of
you remember that?
reset your
Everything used to be
balance.
closed on Sundays when we were younger too. Ha, that was
Hmm.
something else that went away. I remember that, yeah.
Yeah, and like it talked about the benefit of that because that helps reset you. We're so used to going at a blazing pace from the moment we wake up, grab our phone, just scrolling everything to make sure we didn't miss anything when we're asleep. And then most people fall asleep scrolling their phone doing the same thing. So it's like taking a day off to actually get back into nature's rhythms and just see like, oh, here's a sunrise, here's a sunset. Wow, the day's really long. And there's when I'm not scrolling on my phone and
Yeah.
watching,
Distracted the
binging
whole
every
day.
series. And yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, you get to spend time with people, you get to spend time in nature, you get to do whatever you do, pamper yourself. But I thought that was a novel concept and I did it for a while, but it was hard as heck because it's boring.
What you know what the difficulty is too, I think there's a difference on like when we were younger and everything was closed on Sundays. I think the only things that were open were like gas stations and stuff might have been open, but that was it. Like everybody's doing it. So
Hmm.
it's forced in a sense. So it's easier. Like you could do some work and stuff if you wanted to, but for most of it, like back then too, there wasn't, you couldn't work at home remotely. There wasn't
True.
the internet. So like I think it was a lot
And
easier
everybody
to
was
slow
lined
down.
up to the same schedule,
Yeah.
which was
So
nice.
it
Now
was
you
nice.
can't get
Yeah.
that.
Like,
Hmm.
people went to work, they had a set schedule, they couldn't bring work home with them, and then everybody had off on Sundays. And it was like, I think that was nice because it was just that, like, everybody's doing it. You don't have to worry about it. You didn't feel like now it's like if you take Sunday off, it's like, well, I'm missing out. They're going to be ahead of me by a day because I'm not doing stuff this day, getting better, improving, constantly growing BS, right? Yeah.
Yeah, at the co-working place I work at, there's like a few really big companies there, and I talk with the people, and I'm like, "What are you doing this weekend?" And they're like, "Oh, you wouldn't believe it. I got all this work to catch up on, so I could do all these reports and everything for next Monday." I was like, "But you just worked here for like 40 hours this week doing whatever, and
Yeah.
then you're gonna go home and do more of it over the weekend. It's nuts."
Well, that's the other crazy part. I think a lot of these companies now, like, people don't work 40 hours, dude, that are full time. They're working like 60, 70, 80 because they're accessible at all times. And I think that's the other big
Hmm.
danger of this. Like, we haven't found that way to balance it and restrict and compartmentalize these aspects of our lives so that we can have a full life.
Yeah, well, people just gave away a whole bunch of their freedoms, like privacy, right to
Yeah.
privacy, to information. Like people just take pictures and videos of whoever the heck they want, whenever they want. No,
Well, I think to be fair,
no
it's because it was
respect for
new and
privacy.
people didn't understand at first. Like they didn't
Hmm.
like early on, like people did not understand that like you put stuff up on the internet, it's there. Like forever. Like people just didn't get it. And I understand because
Hmm.
nobody understood it at first. Like it was
Yeah, they
new,
didn't
you
have
know?
that before. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's it. Now we know and hopefully we'll adjust to it, but you never know how things will
Hmm.
go. But yeah, I
Yeah.
think I've been thinking about this a lot because I told you I like started this new method of trying to organize my day. That's been working
Yeah.
really well. So like I got a daily planner and it has like the week days on one
Hmm.
page and then a blank page. And so I've been doing like I'll have like ongoing tasks on the blank page, like a list of things that I just need to do. And then on the other side for the days, I'll schedule like specific big things each day that I want to focus on. And it's been really
Hmm.
helpful because it's enabled me to focus and like I was saying to you the one day, like when I had like the other day, like I, needed a break from doing longer tasks. So, but I wasn't like, it wasn't like lunch or anything. I wasn't going to do anything else. So I just stopped and I did some of the smaller ones on my ongoing list. And it's been really effective. And I feel like I'm getting more done because I'm not all over. It's not like I have this list of 40 things to do every day. Instead,
Hmm.
I have like, this is the thing I'm focusing on. Do that. These things,
Hmm.
it's a bonus, if I get them done.
Right.
If not,
Yeah.
it'll make it to the next day.
Hmm. Yeah, that is really good, and it also helps you kind of prioritize and figure out what's important and recognize that you can only fit so much into a day.
Yeah. Well, and the thing I noticed with myself too that was really starting to get to me was like I can get really hyper focused on the work that I'm doing and into it and I enjoy it. So that's part of the problem. But like
Hmm.
because of that, I noticed that like I was pushing my working hours later and later and spending less time with like also the people I love and my dog and stuff and like I was like the one day I was like, I don't want this though. I don't want to do this. Like I don't want to live like this. I don't want to be working 24/7. That's stupid. So
Hmm.
I had to adjust it, and this has been very helpful because like now like I don't feel, at night like when Anna gets home, I'll be like, all right, I can just stop. Who cares? Because like I got this, I got
Hmm.
a good amount done, and can just do it again the next day. And just
Hmm.
reminding yourself too that like there's always the next day. Like there's no impetus to get all this crap done today. I think that's the other thing
Hmm.
that bothers me is like we think like we have to finish this crap today, but it's like why? What is the rush?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah, there is this imperative that it needs to get done yesterday.
yeah,
And yeah, it's not good enough.
that feeling that you're always behind is horrible. It is a terrible feeling to feel because it feels like you can
Hmm.
never, I mean, literally, you can never do enough to get it done.
Hmm.
So it's like, so putting more energy in is not going to make anything happen faster,
Hmm.
I don't think.
Yeah. Yeah, I heard this thing. So there's this book that I listen to every once in a while called The Science of Getting Rich, because it's kind of like it's like a philosophical treatise on getting
Huh.
rich as opposed to like, build up money or whatever. And so it talks about the whole philosophy behind it. And in it, I'm going to paraphrase, so, bear with me, but he was saying something along the lines of like, in order to have a good life, you need to do good acts. And so if you spend your day doing bad acts, you'll have eventually in the end a bad life. But if you do even just one good act, then you will have a good life. And so it kind of made me think on this topic of like slowing down because we're so used to doing as much as possible as quickly as possible, and we cut corners doing that. And you see that all
Hmm.
over the place
Yeah.
nowadays with all this garbage all over the world, where like corners are cut because we can get it done faster, we can get it to market faster, we can make more money. But in the end, it's just technically like a bad act. And so if you kind of think about that, at the end, you're just going to have a bad life because you're having this collection of bad things. Where even if you take the time to do things slower and you just do the good things, but they take more time, you will, in essence, have a good life because you have done good acts.
That's a really good point too, because I think I see it all the time. Like and that applies to everything in life. Like if you're rushing through, like, that's what I meant, like with like hanging out with your loved ones, right? Like if I'm trying to rush through work or feel like I have all this work to do, I'm not there when I'm hanging out with them. So it's like that time is bad because you're not present, you're not enjoying it, you're not enjoying the life that you've wanted for yourself and created, right? You're just working. And I think that's one of the dangers of it that we don't realize. It's kind of funny, I think we kind of screw ourselves over by getting caught in this trap of like the only way to win is to have more and more and perpetual growth. And it's like, but that doesn't really work because you're also going to lose out on everything else in your life. And it's funny
Hmm.
that I think we talked about before, but all these people that people look up to that are wealthy, like so many of them are miserable.
Hmm.
And so it's like, so yeah, they have money, but like that hasn't solved the problem of life.
Nope. And it never will,
No.
unfortunately.
Unfortunately, it would be easy if it did. That would be great, but I guess it
Oh yeah,
doesn't.
that would be
So
cool.
yeah,
Yeah.
be
But
nice.
everybody's still got to try.
Gotta give you a good old college try, as they say.
Mm. Yeah. So anything else for how to slow down?
I mean, I think honestly, like structuring your day is helpful. Like starting to actually like try, and it is hard to plan and like get a schedule and routine down, but getting one down like where you actually have a start and end to your workday is important. Like even like doing like blocks of time. Like I told you this before, like I generally like will work from like about 8 to 11, take a break for like a couple hours, then work in the afternoon till like early evening, then stop. And I kind of structure my day around like my partner's schedule and stuff because it makes sense. But kind of doing that and having clear, definitive lines of this is the time that I do this stuff can make it a lot easier to both motivate yourself to do it, but also to stop and
Mm.
enjoy other things.
Yeah,
And like
absolutely.
And I find that, at least for me, scheduling is very helpful. Like I think that came from the
And
artist
it's
way.
cool
Like,
because when you write it down, you can like if you
yeah,
don't get done everything that you needed to do that day, you could just put it on the next day's
yep.
schedule, or you
You
can put
just
it on that free thing of like activities to get done, and it's
Yeah,
just like it'll
exactly.
get done
That's what's
eventually.
cool. Yeah, and it gets
Yeah.
done. And once you write it down, and like by writing it down too, and that's the other nice thing because like if I don't finish stuff on that list on the activities to do, I just move them to the next week. But the nice thing is
Mm.
because by constantly doing that, I'm constantly rewriting them and reminding myself,
Oh
but
yeah.
also seeing them getting done. And I think that's also really powerful because you see that you're still making that progress that you wanted to make, even though you're not like rushing around like an idiot.
Hmm.
And things get done better too, I think. When we slow down, do things like you were saying too, like all this crap in the world because everything's rushed but I think that's also because we're only focused on, again, the the outcome, not anything else.
Yeah, 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 that's really good. One thing that came to mind that's helpful for me is like sometimes I'll feel like I'm in a hurry, and uh, oh, the book was called The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry.
Oh,
So
yeah,
yeah, yeah, so good book. But like sometimes I'll be in a hurry. Like I'll have to be somewhere and for one reason or another, I didn't leave myself enough time. So I'm going to put on my socks and shoes and I can't get my sock on and I'm just like I'm losing it because my sock just like I can't untangle it and get it on my foot. And then I'll remember this thing. It's from some military branch. I want to say it's from the Navy SEALs, but it could be from somewhere else, where they say slow is smooth and smooth is fast.
yeah.
And it's very counterintuitive, but like when I get in those situations where I'm just like trying to do it and it's just not tight, that flows through my mind. And then I remember to slow down. And as I slow down, it feels like it takes longer, but it actually is just very, very smooth. And then it gets done. And it's just like, that's an interesting way to slow down and to
I
get
remember
stuff
you
done.
told me about that that was years ago. And I
Hmm.
remembered it and I was laughing because I've had the same experience trying to like rush put on my socks, literally for some reason the socks, and like couldn't get them on. I was frustrated. And then I was like, oh yeah, and then you slow down and then it gets done. And it is a
Yeah.
really good thing to keep in mind. I really like that saying because I actually use it all the time, like remind myself of it. And it's so
Yeah.
true because like you try to rush and then you start banging into things. Things are like, you know what I mean? Like, and
And I
everybody's done
like
this,
I
right?
literally lose it. I'm just
Yeah.
like I so quickly my mind just goes down like my whole life is gonna t fall apart because I can't untangle this damn sock.
Dude, the one day I got mad, I almost fell over because I was trying to pull my pants and my foot got stuck and I got angry at it. I was like, ah!
Not today. Come on.
Yeah. And you stop and you're like, what the hell? Like, because really, like, that's the other thing. Like, what is going to happen? Like
Mhm.
we imagine, and then I think that's the bitch of it. Like imagination is so powerful because it is. Imagination's great. It can lead to a lot of good things, but it can be really detrimental. And I think like
Mhm.
we imagine all these things are going to happen because we're a minute late, because this thing
Yeah.
got pushed to them. And the reality is probably nothing's going to happen. And actually, if it has to do with work, most people are going to be happier having something better quality done than garbage. And there's a balance there. You can't, you gotta watch. You can't like use it as a means to procrastinate, obviously. But like, I think there is something there. A lot of these companies, unfortunately, and stuff, I think nowadays don't give a shit about that, and it's all just speed, speed,
The
speed.
bottom line.
Yeah, literally with the least amount of
Mhm.
people possible. But
Yep.
I think for everybody else in our regular lives and stuff, yeah, slow is smooth and slow is fast. It's awesome.
Mhm.
It's a really good thing to remind yourself. Yeah. All right. So there you have it. How to slow down. Everybody should. If you enjoyed the episode, check us out on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. Please like, share, subscribe. It helps us out a lot. Even leave a review. We'll be back later this week with another episode. Until then, later, Andy.
Later, Danny.